Hi, good evening. My name is Patricia Pierre Jilks, and I'm happy that you're joining me today. I would like to speak about a few supervisory instructional strategies that we have learned over the time. There are 6 different instructional strategies that I'm going to speak to you about tonight, and then I'm also going to be able to give you the pros and the cons of each of these instructional skills. The first one that I would like to speak with you about is the teacher self-direct. So I'll write the 6 of them that I'm going to speak about, and then we'll go through them as they go. The first one is teacher self-direct. Teacher self-direct is all about the initiative. It's all about the beginning. As you become more responsible for identifying your own learning skills, you come up with your goals. You find the right resources and you are monitoring your progress. For example, we would use teacher gives a learning exam objective. That's what would happen when the teacher gives a learning objective. The student, therefore, has the opportunity to use her skills, his skills, to be able to, all based on their own personal interests and strengths. The pros and the cons of a student being teacher self-direct would be, the pro would be self-teaching would promote the freedom of expression. That means you don't have to follow a curriculum. You don't have to do all in time to learn a range of different stuff. You don't have to do it all at the same time. You have your own vision. You have a greater initiative that you need to achieve to get the optimal results. Nobody else will rely, there's no one else you can rely on to promote you, because this is your own stuff. You develop your work ethic. You provide a greater way or a greater variety to find different inspirations. A con, therefore, would be some very, very important details might be left off. Okay, because you're self-directed. You go the route that you want to go into. You will skip some steps. You will overlook some others, and you will bypass it all to come back to the same road. In other words, instead of taking the straight road across, you might take the narrower route and still get to the same concept. But there is some part of your education that would not be complete. Number two would be teacher-led action research. Teacher-led action research. An example of a teacher-led action research, as a math teacher, I can give you a very good example. One of the examples would be, in order to stop students from copying on each other, what would I do? I would have a drill, I would have a practice. Remember, the definition for the student-led action research is inquiring about problems, taking actions to solve those problems, finding data. In the process of inquiry, you take an action to purposefully and ethically improve your teaching and learning in the classroom as the teacher. So as the teacher, I want students to stop copying. What am I going to do? How am I going to have them stop learning? There are a few steps. I have to identify the problem. I have to teach them the topic. I have to make sure that they have learned the topic and be able to master that skill. There are pros for using that strategy. One, there'll be a very effective way of collecting data and researching using real world problems. Two, it is an important way of creating new theories and frameworks. And three, it is relevant to the specific circumstance that you're speaking about. So it has to be fun and relevant to what it is that you're learning. However, with every strategy comes a few cons. And the cons would be there is a lack of required rigor because of the limitations that it possesses. It cannot be generalized. It cannot be repeated. Once you did it, it's real life. So once you did it, it is going to give you the result for that time that you've used. And as a teacher, you can consider it as an extension or more work already in your top heavy workload. Number three strategy is student-led instruction. So number 3, student-led instruction. Student-led instruction is learning that allows for more autonomy. The students are not left entirely on their own. The students are now guided by the teachers in the classroom. These teachers are now the facilitators. They're not teaching. They are going around and looking at whatever it is, but that is student-led instruction. So the children has a voice. The children are the one teaching each other. The children are the one developing, thinking critically, thinking outside of the box. For example, there are pros. The students are providing each other with greater responsibility. They are encouraging more collaboration within themselves. They want to get the time to solve the problem. 2, it helps them to ease the transition from the classroom, because what they learned from the classroom, it's an easy transition into the real world, into life after school. It steps away from the outdated one-size-fits-all kind of curriculum that we have been party to for as many years as I have been teaching. It is a fresh new start. It is a fresh way for students to come in and learn something new and enjoy what it is that they are learning. And it provides the student with a voice that they did not even know that they have. They are empowering themselves to take a more active role in their education. The con, however, is really not on the students. It's really because the parents are unfamiliar with the routine, where actually they're more familiar with the routine where the teacher teaches and imparts of her knowledge. They are also unfamiliar with students leading instructions because they are thinking that students do not have enough knowledge to share with their peers, as well as they think that students cannot manage or master their learning and take responsibility for their learning. So in that student-led instruction, there are a few things that are deterrents to have that strategy being used. The fourth strategy is collegial peer coaching. Collegial coaching. As you can see, I'm home, right? I'm teaching from home, so I'm teaching you as well from home as I'm doing this. So, collegial peer coaching and development. It is more common than we have even given ourselves for. I think we use it in different terms, and I'll explain to you what I mean. Let me give you the definition. Collegial coaching or peer coaching is a process where two or more professionals, or is really two professionals, are paired together to work for a specific predetermined purpose, whereby they can improve their professional performances. It is such so that they reflect on current practices or to expand and or build on new skills. An example of this in our today language would be the peer-on-peer coaching would be common planning. Common planning with an ICT teacher and a general ed teacher. Two teachers meeting together to plan cohesively. Two teachers meeting together to build on their skills that one has and the other one does not have. And together they become whole. The pros of doing that is teachers are receptive to change. They have to get with teachers that are receptive to change. It's the epicenter of it all. Number two, the way teachers are paired to form those relationships is critical. You must have a good relationship. There have to be levels of trust that allows me to work with someone else. Because in that comes vulnerability, freedom from judgment. If you made a mistake, in an intention to help and not to deter, an intention to grow and not to demolish, right? And the third thing, there is a tremendous opportunity, if it works, if you have gotten number one and number two, for you to gain professional growth, which is the aim of this peer collaborative, collegial peer coaching. But on the other hand, there are cons. What does happen is human nature comes into play, right? Negative thoughts and feelings, hurt feelings, jealousies, it can arise. A teacher might be like, look, I gave her this and she's using it. Or look, she didn't even give me credit for helping her to do something. Number two would be a lot of insecurities will surface. A teacher might feel less than because the other person has a bigger voice than her. And the third one, competition. Not good competition. Competition where it is a downfall for you instead of an upheaval, instead of growth. And all of this is because somewhere deep inside that person had some negative thoughts or feelings. Number 5. I chose this as an extra I chose this one, an indirect instruction. Indirect instruction. Indirect instruction. Is a student-centered approach for teaching and learning in which concepts, patterns, and investigations where students observe, draw inferences by using their own experiences. Students are able to form meaningful connections to the course content. There are some pros, like everything else, and cons. The pros of an indirect instruction would, students would help to develop problem solving skills. They would provide an opportunity for self-assessment. So they would use things like concept mapping and reflective discussions, critical thinking outside of the box. They would provide the opportunity for self-assessment they will help each other to understand the cause and effects of what it is that they're using through trial and error. So yes, I made the mistake. I'm trying to build a square from a rectangle, and how can I do this? I made a mistake. And because both of them are more students than one is working, somebody might find information, trial and error, start again. No, it does not fit in that hole. And it's an authentic experience that everyone should go through. But the cons is that it requires scaffolding. And that takes some time. Students are overwhelmed and discouraged by the responsibilities of the tasks that they have at hand. They may get discouraged. They may make assumptions about students' prior knowledge, predetermined assumptions. So you may think, hey, that child is supposed to be smart, so I'm going to pick her for my team, and then you got her on the team and she's no help to you. And it is teacher workloaded. What do I mean by that? The teacher is the one that has to make all of the assessments and figure out how to plan it into the future for that student. The final one is collaborative learning. Collaborative learning. Collaborative learning is also known as co-learning. It's an approach in education where you embrace groups to create knowledge. Learning occurs through collaboration, through teamwork, where you bring in your own special gifts and talents. Remember I told you previously that if you're an ICT teacher, which is a special ed teacher, and a general ed teacher coming together, what the general ed teacher doesn't know, the ICT teacher has been trained. So together they become whole. That is also like collaborative learning. It's also like a co-learning atmosphere where a student doesn't know something, but that child brings it into the group and they are able to learn from that student. The pros for that would be they'll have enhanced communicative skills. They'll be able to negotiate, debate in order to come to shared agreements and shared information. They'll build cross-cultural awareness. It doesn't, all the time students in groups are not from the same geographical area. So they'll have some conversation. They're able to learn about each other, and that's just so exciting. They're able to learn about each other. They can learn about their cultures whilst they are participating. And they can learn from their peers. That is the best form of learning that I have found. A child will hear what the teacher is saying, but would really understand what their peer is doing because the peer is showing them, and they are able, because they are peers, to receive even better from their peers. And they will be able, because of that, to provide checks and balances for each other's work, and which gives that like an instant assessment as well. The weakness of that is that if there is a student who is introverted, more on the quiet side, she may have struggles, or he may have struggles. He might not be able to partake because he's more fearful. It is a new atmosphere. He doesn't like to be put on the spot. He doesn't like to be talking in front of people, or she doesn't like to be talking in front of people. So she might be struggling in that social setting. Two, because it's group working, it requires training, it requires skills assessments, right? There's a specific skills. You cannot just be thrown into a group and it works, right? Yes, you can, but it takes the people in the group to make that group work. Of course, there's always a leader and always someone who is going to take ownership of that group, right? So as the teacher, you need to know your students. Sometimes you need to be able to pair them appropriately. And sometimes you might say, instead of you pairing them, that they can pair themselves. And as a facilitator, you're able to monitor the happenings in that student-centered grouping. And another thing is there are assessments that has to be done when the group is finished doing their work is often difficult. Because what you may find, if that group is not working and doesn't have a leader that each other respects in that group, you may find a student saying, you know, that lazy student did nothing. Miss, I'm the only one who did work. Do you know that sometimes I don't like to put my children in groups? Because when I'm passing around, I always see one child working. I like to put them in groups of two, so they have more to do with each other. They have, you know, that child can choose two sums while the other child chooses the other two sums. But I'm opening up because it is a part of me that was not comfortable for a long time. And just like the students in the groups, the inequities of those groups, even for me, is difficult. And it sometimes brings my morale down because I don't know how to help the students more than to put them in there, and then I feel guilty when the group doesn't work out. So tonight, these are my 6 instructional strategies that I have been speaking to you about. I hope you've learned something. I hope there are things that you can take away from my presentation that is able to enhance your teaching methods. And you may choose any one of those 6. There's teacher self-direct, teacher-led action research, student-led instruction, collegial peer coaching, indirect instruction, and collaborative learning. Please, at any chance, you can use them all. You can try them at least once and see which one works for you. Because of course, not all will work. In your lifetime as a teacher, you may use at least one at some point, and sometimes you may choose to keep only one. Sometimes you may use each over the years and now have been able to become a stronger teacher and be able to focus on one. But remember, it's not the and all and end all of this. You don't have to stick with the ones that you've chosen. You need to know your students, because every year students are different. In this world that we're in, this world of technology, there are so many things that we can bring to the table. And really having students teach themselves in led instruction might become the thing of the present. It's now here. Technology has allowed us to be able to learn on our own, to research on our own, to come to school and do our own education. Take it from us. That's what we're doing right now as teachers. I'm learning on my own, even though I have a facilitator to help me, guide me as we're going along. So thank you very much for joining me. I am so pleased that you're able to view my video. Have a nice day. Be blessed, and I hope to see you again real soon. Good night.